Hey guys, Radrey here. I need to inform you that this episode, the sound audio quality is really bad. One of the reasons is I was doing this as a live show that was not through Google Hangouts, because most of the time I do the show as of right now. I mean, eventually I want to do it through Open Broadcast System and have the show be a bit more professional, but it's not at that state just yet. So the problem is that I wasn't really up to date with like what the setup is, and sometimes it's gonna take me a little while to figure out what the setup for the new Why Come Japan show before it doesn't become. Those who watch the live show will notice I'm always sitting here on a sofa, and Simon Nochanama, one of our previous guests, likes to always joke in the chat about how it's always the sofa show. So, as for right now, it's just going to be on Google Hangouts until I get a proper setup, because, you'll listen to this and you'll wonder why the audio is so bad, and why it's so short is because, the reason why it's so short is because I didn't really write down any questions, and usually I'm always on top of everything. I'm always writing down questions for my interviews, because I try to, respect the interviewee, but I mean, this time it was my parents, so I just felt like I would just go with the flow, right? But yeah, that didn't really work out. And actually, my previous guest, Atomic Boy X, was even saying that maybe you should get them drunk first, which would have been a good idea, because we were actually very hungry. And so, long story short, I lived and learned, and hopefully we don't have to deal with that again, and maybe I'll have them on the show another time, where we're more relaxed and willing to talk for more than 20 minutes. So what's been salvaged is what you have right here. I hope you enjoy it. It's somewhat of an interesting conversation. So yeah, without further ado, enjoy.
Why Come Japan?
Welcome to another edition of Why Come Japan. I'm your host, Mr. Radrey, and I'm here today with my parents. Okay, this is my mom, Marcia, and this is my stepdad, Calvin Clark. You came all the way from America to be on this podcast.
We did. We got the invitation.
Yeah?
Got on the plane, and now we're here.
Okay, I guess we should start with who I am as a person. You know, I'm Radrey. Everybody knows me on the show. So, and my mom, actually, she has a very deep connection to Japan, and I think she'd probably like to tell it with the rest of the world here on the internet. So, Mom, you came to Japan back in when?
1981.
1981. Man, that's a long time ago. I imagine Japan was very different back then.
Yeah, it was. I see some differences, but I see a lot of similarities too.
Okay, and you taught English here in Japan, right?
Mm-hmm. In Kagoshima.
Okay. And so, actually, while my parents are here, we're going to go to both Kyoto and Kagoshima. So expect to see a video for me where I'm going to both places. So, okay. So you taught English in Kagoshima English School. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right.
Anything you want to say about that experience? Anything you remember?
Well, it was a great experience, and it really changed my life. You know, just opened your eyes going to another country.
I guess,
especially at that age.
Okay. Let's backtrack a bit here. What was your initial interest in coming to Japan?
Well, I worked in the foreign student office at UCLA, and I wanted to live in another country. I was graduating from there, and I had just been around a lot of people who always had foreign experience, and I, at that time, did not. I'd never lived outside the United States. So I thought, when I was graduating, I was looking for a job, and I went to the placement office and found one of the things I could do was teach English as a second language in Japan. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So,
okay. And, all right. And then I eventually came... Oh, I guess you switch cameras here. Then I eventually came to Japan after... because, well, for a number of reasons. I mean, I always tell people the same 4 reasons. I came for Japan because my Japanese heritage. I'm actually quarter Japanese, and I came here also for college, and then I also came here for I guess basically just to live somewhere overseas. That was the basic idea. So, Mom, you went to UCLA.
Uh-huh.
You graduated from UCLA, and that's where you met my dad, my father, before you met Calvin.
Right.
And that's when you made me. You made me in, or where I was conceived. Maybe I should probably say I was conceived. A lot of people are joking on the internet here. It's like saying, why do you want to ask your parents about where you were made? Like, yeah, I know that. I know how physically it happens. Geez. But I mean, the question is that I know I was conceived in like Santorini, right?
That's right. Wow.
Yeah.
I guess I did.
And you were once considering to call me by the name Santorini, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought Santorini Scylla sounded a little too many S's.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Santorini Scylla. The SS squad.
I don't know. Plus, I had other reasons to name you Radley, because
Radley's a family name, right?
Right. It's my mother's maiden name was Radley, and she died right before you were born. So that's why you were named Radley. And she thought it sounded good with Scylla, so Radley Scylla.
How do you feel being here in Japan after 30 years? You're like, it's been 30 years. You went to Kagoshima.
Yeah.
More than 30 years.
Yeah, like 35, 37, something like that, we figured out. But how does it feel? It feels... well, I did come back one time. I was here 9 years ago. Almost 10 years ago. And when you first came to Japan. And, well, it wasn't first, but when you were here a little before that, but you came to visit, so it's really the second in recent time.
Mm-hmm.
So why did I come back this time?
I guess just for me, really.
Well, no, for you, and also because Kelvin's never been to Japan, and I love Japan. I want to come back. I feel a great connection to it. I just feel like it's always been. It's the only. Well, not the only other country I've lived in, but it had a very big impact on my life. Let's put it that way.
Right. And so, Calvin, this is your first time here in Japan, right?
Correct, yeah.
What is your initial impression of it? What do you think? Like, what are the first things you're noticing, like, right away?
Well, coming to Tokyo, just a lot of people and a lot of density here. And a lot of cool, small little vehicles. Like vans about as wide as your kitchen table.
Right. Well, you're really big into...
I like wheeled vehicles, so
right.
I noticed that a lot. Yeah.
You're really big into, like, cars, right?
Yeah. Anything that has wheels is interesting.
Anything that has wheels?
Yeah.
What was your initial, like, interest? Like, what made you say, like, man, cars is totally my thing?
Oh, I don't know. I think my dad had sort of an interest in that as well. So, when I grew up, there was always stuff like that around. There was always, the bicycles and that.
Because, yeah.
And the cars were unusual cars. And so there was just always an interest around it. Yeah.
Well, because I'm here in Tokyo, I brought you to the Toyota Car Museum, which is like an Odaiba.
Oh, Toyota City.
Toyota City? Yeah. What did you think of that?
That was outstanding. We spent the day there.
Really?
Lots of cool stuff. Yeah. Definitely Toyota is an interesting company. Way more experimental than I would have imagined. You kind of think of them as a traditional company, and then when you see what they're up to, there's a lot of creativity going on. Seems like.
Yeah, definitely. So we're about to go to Kyoto to do some tourist stuff and whatever after this. Or probably after this, probably go get dinner or something. But our plans are to go to Kyoto, and we're going to see the Kinkakuji, which is like the Golden Pavilion. Mom, you've been to what is it? You've been to the Golden Pavilion before, right? In Kyoto?
Yes.
Okay. Are we mostly going again just to show Calvin? And because I've never seen it, actually.
Well, I want to see more. I want to see the whole. Kyoto was at one time the capital of Japan, and it was. It's an older city. It's the only city in Japan that really wasn't touched by World War II. That's what I heard, at least.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And so there's a lot. We're gonna take a bike ride, hidden bike tour of Kyoto. So that's the first thing we're gonna do, and then from there, I just want to, see more of it because I've only been there once before this, and so to me, I want to learn as much as I can and see the history of Japan and.
Right. Well, I'm going to go with them, and we're also going to go to Kagoshima later to see some of my mother's friends who she made back in the 80s here in Japan. One of them we met yesterday was a rock star named Norihisa. I guess that's the best way to define him. He's been a friend of mine as well. Maybe he's been on a couple of videos on the Radrey show a long time ago, a couple of videos ago.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe more important question is, this is probably something that's I should ask a really important question is, what do you think of all this? What do you think of this podcast stuff? What do you think of what do you take out of it? Do you think it's enjoyable? What's your overall feeling about this right now?
Oh, being here doesn't make me squirm.
Well, that's good.
That's a good thing. Yeah, doesn't feel nervous.
Doesn't make you feel nervous?
Does not.
Okay.
No. But then we're comfortable with you, so maybe that's it. And I've listened to podcasts, and I think they're cool. So I've been listening to your podcast, and I've been learning a lot about, and I suppose I've been learning a lot about yourself. I've been learning a lot about your guests, like you always do, and all of that. I think, anyway, I think they're fascinating and interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, basically when I make these shows, I kind of make them as like kind of a testament for like my own life, like how I evolve as a person. And sort of I learn things along the way, and I, pick up every new thing every now and then. And I guess we could talk about our day. That's what we did. Yesterday we met up with Norihisa, your friend, or our friend, our mutual friend. And then, what is it? Oh, you had a really hard time on the subway system here, the train system.
Well, it's because you have such an easy time on the subway system here.
It's complicated, and you can't really. I mean, as a tourist, because that's all we really are. We don't live here. It's too hard to figure out. We finally have resulted in now taking taxis around.
What do you think is confusing about it?
It's vast, and we don't live in a town where there's that kind of system, so I'm not used to it, and I know it would take we get on it and everything's written in Japanese, so it's if you can't read Japanese, it's hard to, and they speak in English, but it just takes a little more concentration than we're probably willing to give to it.
Well, the map looks really good, and I think it's a very efficient thing. But we don't come from a subway city, as Marcia just said. So, that's probably part of it. So when we got out you got us out there, and you and Kiki understand the subway system quite well. Hanging with you guys, spoiled. And then when we came out of the Toyota City thing and we came off the monorail, and then we didn't, at that point, it was like, okay, trying to find our way back to where we would connect to all the right subway paths. We did take the taxi option at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's enjoyable to take the subway too. It's not. It's not a bad experience.
No.
And I'm not trying to say anything bad about the Japanese. Everything you do here is interesting and pleasant, and there's nothing unpleasant here. It's really an interesting country. Very.
It's not a noisy city.
No, it's very
Tokyo,
quiet.
for all the people that live here, it's not a loud city. When you go out on the streets, when you are in the subway, when you're anywhere, it's a people are not loud and out there as much as they are in an American city. So I would say that definitely was an aha moment. It's like, oh, Tokyo's not loud.
Do you enjoy that? It's like, would you say America's really loud?
Yeah, America's loud, and if you get, and the bigger you put yourself into a bigger city, the more loud it is. Yeah. So, even though you have many Times Squares, it seems like, there's like different places we've been where all of a sudden there's like a lot of people and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you think you could ever live in Japan? I mean, like as in Tokyo?
Yes.
Yeah?
I definitely think I could live in Japan. I probably won't anymore.
Why do you say that?
Because.
You've gotten too used to America?
And also, I'm 62 years old. So it's not like unless I'm not, I have a life in the United States. So, I'm not going to be leaving that any day soon that I can think of.
Right, right.
But I definitely think, like, if it so happened that I ended up here, it wouldn't be a bad thing. It's it's a nice place to live. And Tokyo is an exciting city. There's a lot happening, and it's very clean. People are so courteous and polite. It's exceptional, and they just go out of their way to help foreigners.
Yeah, I mean, Japan's really opening up its country for, the 2020 Olympics, so they're trying to make things easier. But I still think things are really complicated here, especially for, like, foreigners who've never been here. Mm-hmm. Like, the learning curve, it's not simple, It's not like going to Mexico or Canada or Europe or something where most things are... Because Japan is just so different compared to other countries.
But it's the East versus West, I think. Of course it's different. And it's not like your friend once said about Blaine, who said, you go to Europe and you say, yeah, I can see where we came from. I see how we're like these people. And then when he went to Japan, he says, wow, things are really different here. I mean, it's just more, it's the East versus the West, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely very different compared to the other side of the world. What do you think, Calvin? Do you think the eastern part of the world's more exciting than the West, or you'd like best of both worlds, do you think?
First time I've been in the eastern part of the world.
Oh, really? This is your first time?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's true.
I've only
Mostly
just visited very limited to Europe. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, it's the first time in the East. I don't feel uncomfortable or nervous here. So maybe that surprised me. Walking around Tokyo does not feel it doesn't seem to be uncomfortable to me.
We used to say about that, I'm not saying because you just got here, is that Japan, at first it seems really different, but it also seems very much like the United States. It's very similar. I mean, and then you think you understand it in the first right away. Then you realize you don't understand it. Then you try to understand again. And I just think to actually get inside the inside stuff of Japan or what's really going on takes a long time. That's the general consensus of the people that I used to work with at UCLA and how they felt about any mostly Japan, but any Eastern country, I guess, because it's just so different, the way people think and everything. I don't know if that was clear, but that's
What do you think's different about the way people think in Japan versus, I guess the answer is pretty obvious. It's all about collectivism, right? It's all about people working in a group and whatever, right?
Yeah, that too. But I don't know. This is
Oh,
difficult.
the teamwork ethic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely obvious.
Oh, that's right away.
You know,
I saw that.
so
when
there
I
is a
first came
thing here about people definitely feel like they are compelled to help one another. It just seems
Yeah,
like
the
the way. Three guys working on
cooperation.
scraping paint on a guardrail today. The guys in the construction with the LED batons directing traffic.
Mhm.
They seem like they're on a mission. You know, they have that vibe about them. And that just seems to be the way that is. And then, and then when we asked about where to get a curling iron, and the place, was it Family Mart? Is that what it is?
Family Mart, yeah.
Yeah.
Convenience store.
Yeah. The person will go find somebody, take you out to the sidewalk, get on your phone, point you in the right direction. We followed that direction and we found what we needed to find.
I think he went through a lot too.
But there just seems to be, everybody seems to feel like they are brothers and sisters, and they are trying on the earth, and they're trying to help everybody out along the way.
Oh.
If you ask, then that happens. I mean, otherwise, there's nobody in your face coming up to you and saying, "Radrey, I want to help you out." But if you want,
Yeah.
if you there's just a teamwork type of feeling.
hmm
So anyway,
So I should ask my parents, is there anything you want to say on the podcast before we go?
Well, you told me it was about why come Japan, so I guess I just want to say I thought about that. I just think it's the greatest experience to go to other countries, and Japan to me is a great place to start or end or whatever. But it's just a really good. It just gives you great perspective on your own country, and it just opens your eyes because this is about the world. Just watching another culture, the way they handle and do things on a day-to-day basis, and being alive in the situation is what makes it so much more understandable. And it just gives you a new perspective on your own country. And there's nothing like it. It's better than a college education. I think it's just travel and seeing other places and living and being in those places. So that's all I want to say.
Okay. Calvin, do you have anything to say before we leave
glad
for
I
today?
came all the way here for the podcast. Absolutely.
Well,
13 hours on the airplane was absolutely worth every second
okay.
The podcast.
for the podcast.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a nightmare because I didn't set up as well as I should have. And I didn't, this is why it's always good to write down questions, before you do a podcast. This whole week, I'm even contemplating about taking a hiatus on the podcast during certain months because I know that I'm not going to be able to balance certain things. So, hopefully the future, if my parents ever do come to Japan again. But this will probably be... What's that?
I'm planning to come again.
You're planning to come again?
Sure.
You don't mind the 12-hour flight?
Well, I might work on the flight a little bit, dividing it up a little bit. But no, you get over that, It's not sticking in my mind. It's like
Okay.
having a baby, You forget about the childbirth, but because you got the baby afterwards.
Hey guys, that's where the interview ends. The show ends a little abruptly, so I figured I would put a little bumper here at the end. So next time on the show is Mr. Lucas Polka. This episode was shot on the first week of November, and yes, I am a little behind on the uploads. Those of you who are looking for the Shivers upload, the Taisha Jason episode, and most recently the Jimmy Sanchez episode. Those will all, and also Phoenix 787 episode. Those will all be up shortly. Please bear with me. Expect to see an upload this Monday, and then another upload every Thursday. And by the end of this month, let's say the first week, maybe possibly the first week of January, I will be all caught up with the schedule, and everything will be back on schedule for Why Come Japan. So, until then, I'm Radrey. See ya.